Hi, my name is Greg Wilkins. I'm the handicapper at Manly Yacht Club, New South Wales, Manly that is. And today I'm going to show you a website tool that I've put together to help Australian keelboat sailing clubs analyse their handicaps, compare handicaps between different boats, and hopefully set handicaps for their whatever system they use going forward. So the idea is what I've done is I've sucked in every bit of elapsed time I can find in any results in the Australian racing fleet, from SailSys, from Top Yacht, from Blue Water Point Score, and I've put them into a database of the results for the last mostly 5 years. I think some go back a little bit further, but when I'm doing the processing, I only weight. Once it's older than 5 years, it's weighted to 0. If it's in the last 12 months, it's weighted highly, so more recent results count better. And then I do a optimization process where I try and come up with a single number for every boat for spinnaker, non-spinnaker and two-handed that's comparable across the whole Australian fleet. So the optimization looks at how to make the minimal residual variance if we optimize every single race in the last 5 years with those weights. And the idea is that we can then use this number to see how our handicaps compare to other clubs, how good our handicaps are that we've allocated, and also to help us set handicaps going in the future. It's probably best if I show what we want. So here are all the clubs I've got. You can search for the clubs. There's probably some I've missed. If you want to be in here, ask me. If you want to be excluded from this whole process, you can request to be excluded yourself, or ask me for an email to be excluded. Hopefully you want to participate. We have boats in here. I can, let's say, search for a boat. Here's my own boat, Esprit. And what we're looking, the numbers we're assigning for a boat, I'm assigning 3 numbers. The reference factor is a time correction factor that's based more or less on the design. And the way I do that is I search the whole fleet for any boats that have measurements-based certificates, AMS, ORC, ORC Club, IRC, and I've actually got a great big analysis of how I can convert any of them to any of the other ones with weights. All the stuff is done with weights. Like if that's a good conversion, there's a bad conversion, not enough boats in common, but I can convert it all the way through. And so when I'm reporting these time correction factors, where's my boat gone? The numbers are scaled to be equivalent to a 2025 IRC. I can change that. I might go ORC in the future because there seems to be a lot of clubs with ORC certificates. But at the moment, if you see a time correction factor here and it doesn't say otherwise, it's equivalent to a IRC 2025. But then you'll see that the tool allows you to scale that to your own fleet. If your numbers are a little bit above or below, you can put in a couple of boats and it'll scale all your handicaps up and down, above and below. So anyway, the reference factor is what you get if you have a measurement certificate, or you've raced against the boat with a measurement certificate, or you've raced against the boat that has raced against the boat with a measurement certificate. Obviously, the more that you've if you have a measurement certificate, it's a higher weight, and if you've it's raced against the boat raced against the boat that has a measurement certificate, it's a lower weight. The quality gets worse. So you'll see some numbers will be in red. They're very low confidence because it might be too many, not enough races, or a big factor. Or these ones can be in high confidence because you've either got a measurement certificate or you're close to it. So that's the reference factor. Again, all these things, I've got little informations that pop up, tell you what they are. Click on them, it goes to a big documentation things. I then allocate the performance factor, which is the time-corrected factor, where I've done a optimization for all those boats for their actual elapsed time performances in all their races, and what's the best performance factor, the single number I can give for the last 5 years for spinnaker, non-spinnaker, and two-handed. So I can give every boat a two-handed one, even if they haven't raced two-handed. And that's the closest thing kind of to like a PHS. This is not really a handicapping system. This is more of an analysis system because I'm doing it with a retrospective scope. I'm looking backwards over the season, or the last 5 seasons, and coming up with the best guess single number. Whereas a handicapping system is going week by week, predicting things in the future. It has to. It doesn't have the benefit of hindsight like this has. So. And then finally, this is a new thing, the performance profile. Not all boats get them because you have to have sailed a fair bit in the last few years to get a performance profile. And this is just an interesting way of extracting more data out of the, more information out of the data I get, which is the elapsed times. And what's happening here, let's if I go for my own boat so I don't, where have I gone? Oh, there we go. I evaluate every boat by looking at, this is the performance factor that's been allocated, and these are all the races it's done and the variance above and below of how it's gone. And I can look at that and I can come up with 5 different ways I can rank a boat. Frequency, how frequently does it sail? Has it done lots of races? Is it racing throughout the year? I rank all the boats on that. If you're in the highest percentile, you're up here. If you're in the lowest percentile, you're down there. Consistency. What's the summation of the variation from your predicted performance factor? So if you're hammering on your predicted performance factor all the time, you'll get a good consistency. You see my boats, we're about halfway, 0.5% in the middle of consistency. We have mixed crews and things. And then diversity, who are you racing against? If you're racing against the same 3 boats week in, week out, you're not going to get a good score in diversity. If you've got lots of different, lots of boats that you're racing against and lots of varied boats you're racing against frequently, then you get a good score in diversity. Again, we rank the whole fleet and you get score between 0 and 1. Stability is how we rank the boats. If you're staying steady, your variance is not changing over time, probably means that you're very close to the boat's capability. That's the best stability. If your results are improving over time, then that's the second best stability. And if your results are getting worse over time, that's the worst stability, that you're getting worse. And then finally, the other axis is chaotic. This is like if you have a bad day, and everybody else in that race also had a bad day, i.e. off their performance factor, then that's okay. You're not particularly chaotic, you're averagely chaotic. But if everyone else in that race had a bad day and you had a good day, you hit your performance factor, then you're not chaotic, you score well in that. Or if you had if your bad days come when everyone else is having good days, then you're just chaotic. You don't have any excuse for it, so you rate badly in the chaotic. So we rank all the boats on these 5 factors, and the area that you get of this pentagon is the performance profile of your boat, and it's the bigger the better, obviously. And so it's just another way of looking at a boat and saying, is this a well-sailed boat? So one of the key things I'd really like you guys to look at with this tool is if you go to a club and you say Middle Harbour Yacht Club, and you look at your boats and you rank them by performance factor. This is ranking Advanced Velocity as their best sailed boat in that fleet, followed by Gambler, Ostmark. Is this real? Is this, does this match your reality? Is this extracting anything meaningful data? Anyway, I don't use this data other than to make a pretty pentagon. But when you're looking at handicaps, and you're like, someone's got a red factor down here. Why is that? Red. Maybe they haven't done as many races. Don't know that one actually. That's interesting. Very low confidence, but they seem to have a fairly good pentagon. There's always mysteries in this stuff. Anyway, so we'll look at that a little bit more later on. So those are the 3 numbers. Reference factor is about the design time correction factor. The performance factor is how that individual boat's gone, and the performance profile is just another measure of overall goodness of how that boat is sailing. We can look at individual designs. One of the important thing about this system is that garbage in, garbage out. So as we look at the system, we can see that look, I've got 11 meter one design, 11 meter one design, 11 meter one design. I've got 4 different inputs for the 11 meter one design. So what we really want to do is request that we merge them. I can merge them myself, or if you spot something like this, you can say merge this, or you can exclude a boat, or you can a design, or ask for a design to be ignored if it's a meaningless design. Like 1UP, is that really a design? I don't know. And so over time, hopefully we'll improve the quality of the data. Once we've merged these things or excluded them, that's remembered. So when we import more races, it applies those same changes. And you can do the same thing with boats. So it's clear selection, boats. You can edit the sail number, the name, the design that it's got, which club it's sailing with. You can give me your email of why you're asking for this and a reason why you're asking for the change, and you can request the change. We queue them all. Anyway, so let's get on to what the analysis that we can actually do with this. I should say we've also got all the series I've brought in and all the races. And probably the best way, let's look at, if I go to a club, I'll go to Southport Stevens because they've done a lot of racing lately, and I'll look at the series they've done. And here's the Commodores Cup, which was a couple of weeks ago. If I click on that, we can start analysing how those races went. And so what are we looking at here? It's from 0, we don't want to do from 0. Well, all these plots you can say from 0 to, that's really where they are. If you want to, but you want to zoom in to see the actual details. And okay, I am just going to do just the performance profile versus elapsed time. So we'll do, what we're seeing here is the dotted lines is the elapsed time plotted against the performance factor, and the solid lines is the corrected time using the performance factor that's optimized from this software. So we can see that I've got performance factors for all of them. Most of them are good. There's one with low confidence, and that reflects into the error bars and things. But more importantly is if like I've got these boats, but I want to adapt it to my own handicapping system, and I know that let's say Anarchy is in my handicapping system is a 1.12 boat. Then now it's adjusting all these other boats to match. And even if you have another boat which is a 1.011 boat, it's trying to work out the best fit it can for all the handicaps that you're allocating versus the way it predicts them they should be. So this one, let's say 1.03, 1.04, and so it's telling you the ones that you've allocated, how they are above or below what it predicted. It's scaling the predicted performance factor to that range, and it's also scaling the reference factor, which is the design factor. I should just call it design factor rather than reference factor. I'll do that. And again, telling you it's above or below, and then predicting all the other ones and how much of a confidence it's got on those. To do this a little bit more thoroughly, you can actually, as I said, this system works on elapsed times. I just grab all elapsed times I can for all the results. I don't pull in any handicaps that have been allocated and look at those. That's for other systems to do. But you can go just grab them yourself. If you go, here's the Port Stevens results page from SailSys. If you grab a results page from SailSys, Blue Water Point Score, City and Hobart, or Top Yacht, you can hopefully always plug it into here and go fetch them. This is only fetching them in the front end. It's not putting them in the database. It's just putting them here. So you can say, well, how did these handicaps go? We can sort by highest to lowest, or we can sort by quality, the delta from what was predicted. So you can say there's a couple of boats have got moderately big deltas above and below, but most of these boats are green or even super green. So this is saying according to the performance factor, the one number optimized for the whole Australian fleet over the last 5 years, weighted to more recently, the allocated handicaps given to the boats in the Southport Stevens race are mostly pretty good, a couple of outliers. And if you want to start investigating, why that is, you can hover over the boat and say, oh, he's a bit chaotic. So these ones here, hopefully they've got a bit bigger triangles. Maybe that's a reason. I don't know if these pentagons are meaningful or not. We'll see. But the main thing is that if you had one of these boats didn't have a handicap, it's suggesting, given this performance profile or the reference factor and these other handicaps, what it should be. And I'll show you if it's able to do it within a series, a race, or you can just pick boats or designs to do. So to explain this plot a little bit better, I'll just zoom into an individual race. It can get very noisy if you start plotting everything and all the trends of all the races on the one plot. Although I will say here, these overall plots are what you want is the corrected times to be level. If every boat, if the corrected times are, the handicaps, time correction factors are working well, every boat should tie at the same time. And so you want a flat line here, and I think the brown, which is the allocated handicaps from SailSys, is pretty good, 10, it's level 10, whereas the one number, it's not as good as for this particular series, minus 31. But let's have a look at individual races. We can drive down to, here's the Commonwealth Cup, we can see the 5 races, we can sort them by date, and we can look at the first race. So here it's clearer to see that what we have is the fast boats down here and the slow boats over here. So as you plot the elapsed time, it's the slower boats take longer than the faster boats. We then do the corrected time here. The brown is the allocated, the blue is the performance factor. You can put in the design correction factor. You can actually add multiple sets of allocated handicaps if you want to look at how it changed, different sets. Get rid of this. Once you work out a good set of handicaps, you can actually save it to a file or load it back up and play with it. You can plot this in many different ways. I've said that you're always looking at the trend lines is good, although it's getting too busy with all those factors. Let's get rid of the reference factor. In fact, let's get rid of the handicap there. And what you want to see is the trend for the elapsed time should always be a slope, and then the corrected time should always level it up. There's interesting different ways you can plot this x-axis. Currently they're against the performance factor, the factor that this software has picked. You can actually do it against the back calculated handicap for that race. So therefore this will be a perfectly straight line. This is saying if those boats sailed correctly, and it will always say that sail exactly that way. Does it correct very well? This is here is showing that the slow boats were disadvantaged against the fast boats. And if you keep looking at all the different races and you see that systematically through the thing, that would be a problem. But here the fast boats are a slower corrected time than the slow boats. You can plot it against the reference factor, you can plot it against the allocated handicap, or you can plot each of the lines against their own factors. Doesn't really change what you're looking at. You're really basically looking at a slope here versus a flat line there. It kind of just changes how jaggedy it is. So you want to get a feel for the scale of these ups and downs. Looking at those different x-axes can help, but also remember always consider, if it looks a lot jaggedy, look at it from 0, it might not be. And so you can put in your handicaps and see, is this leveling this race off? Or you can go back to the series and say, is the trend leveling the series off? You can look at individual divisions like this, or if you want to see too much data in one, you can see all divisions, which is very meaningless. But you can, if you wanted to, zoom in to something. You can go back out. You can look at the legend to see what everything is, and then you can turn off individual lines, or you can focus onto a single line if you want to. Look at the data. So that's showing you how I got the data from the races, how I compared it, and then the next step is if let's say you've got a series going and you've got a new boat coming along and you want to allocate a handicap for it, you can do compare boats. So if I said I've got my boat, NYC 32, Spree, these are all the boats now that it has raced against, or I can see all available if I want to. So let's say it's raced against Mondo, for instance. Mondo, and we all sort of absolute. So I've got 3 boats here. Now this is a different plot where I'm looking at over time. Let's just look at the performance factor line, get rid of that. That's the level that the software thinks that the boat should go at. All the dots are the different races. The dotted line is a very poor PHS approximation, showing you a sliding average of your best 7 of your last 8 races, but without any cut-offs or without any exclusions and any of the clever stuff that PHS algorithms do. But it's showing you that the performance factor is always set a little bit above that line, because I punish boats that have variances above their performance factor. If a boat is regularly going a little bit better, like once every couple of races, then that's kind of suggesting the boat can go faster. If you just have one, that's not bad. Everyone gets lucky on their day. But if you're very rarely going faster, that means your boat's quite close to its capacity. So the performance factor that this is doing is it's based on the boat's performance and its cruise that it's got and its sails and how clean its bottom is and all those sort of things. But it's trying to find the best performance that boat can do. And so then with these 3 boats, we can actually look at these charts of how they compare in elapsed time. This is Mondo versus Esprit. Is this a nice straight line? No, there's a bit of a scatter here. So what are we in? We're in Spinnaker. How about non-spin? Non-spin, still a bit of a scatter. Whereas this one here is showing a much more tight cluster around more dots. So maybe Mondo and Absolute might be a better pair for predicting other boats. But either way, once you've got a couple of boats here, you can even add some more in. Let's say Fast Company was in the mix. You can then sort of say, given these boats, some of them, it's remember the handicaps I had before. So we'll go non-spin. Let's clear those all, and you say, well, in my system, Mondo is a 1.12 boat, and Absolute is a 1.00 boat, and Esprit is a 1.01 boat. It should be less than the Absolute. It's the 5.9 boat. And it's telling you the quality of those handicaps that it thinks, are they fair or not? But it's also telling you the boats that you haven't given them, what you could give them, and a confidence of how they should be. So that's a good suggestion of what that boat's handicap would be if your current system has these handicaps for your other boats. Of course, it would be nice if all the clubs in Australia agreed on the same number basis, and maybe IRC equivalent might be a better way of going. Yeah, we'll see. And you can do the same thing with designs. You can say designs, compare designs. Like if a boat comes along that just has no race history, I can say Adams 10 is racing against a Grand Surprise and an S80. There we go. So we can see how many race results we get. We get the same sort of performance thing bumping along for those designs, and I can see, are these good boats to pick to the more dots and the tighter the spread, the better they are as predicting other handicaps. And then I can say, the Archambault is a 1.01 at my club, and the Adams 10 is a 0.97, and so therefore I should give the S80 0.87 if I know that, that's the reference factor for this software's worked out, or the best fit is actually just looking at these particular results I've got. What's the best fit line for this? It's saying 8.6. So it's kind of telling you that the range is 8.6 to 8.7. And so it's trying to help you work that out. So yeah, that's probably long enough as an intro to the software. There's lots of other little bits and pieces in there. I would love you to get involved, have a look, tell me this is very new, very experimental, could be completely wrong. I would love to get feedback. I would love people to clean the data up, merge boats, merge designs. You can't do any harm, just click away at it. It should be fine. I really would, very keen to know if the performance profile means something to a club. So I don't know, Jarken, Malu, Shannon, are they well-sailed boats at the CYC? Or we can actually just get rid of the club at all, clear. And this is over all of Australia. Is Advanced Philosophy the best sailed boat in the Australian fleet? Or Mondo, go Manly Yacht Club, up there, top 5. Ciao Bello. Is this a reasonable measure to look at how well sailed a boat is? Because if it is, then using these guys as our standard candles, the boats are frequently sailed, consistently sailed against lots of different boats, without being chaotic and not changing over time, then these are the good boats that we can use when we're predicting, scaling handicaps for other boats. If you've raced against one of these guys, then that's a good indication of what your handicap could be. And I guess we could look at the other end. Is this true? Is Thylacine 1 really that bad? Well, they've hardly raced, so yes. But let's not be nasty and look at the other end. Anyway, the documentation, tells you a lot more about the algorithms. I've done some other videos, but they're a bit long or a bit chaotic. I've done a video about how I'm using this at Manly Yacht Club, so that might be interesting. This is all open source, so you can get the source code and see what I'm doing. It's all on GitHub. If you can either, it's probably best if you want to raise the issue, just go to GitHub and open an issue and we can talk about it there. But for things like excluding, merging, changing names, stuff like that, that can all be done on the software itself. It is at sailing.mortbay.org. I'll put it in the description below, sailing.mortbay.org. It's running in a Raspberry Pi in my cupboard over there. Be kind. That's all for today. Thank you very much, and I'm hoping I'll hear from you. Cheers.